Hey guys, welcome back. Fast Monty's Garage. We're putting the exhaust in today. If you missed it, we put the headers in last episode because we put a Tremec in after I rebuilt the motor. All kinds of videos you missed if you're just joining us today for the first time. So we're going to talk about putting my Magnaflow exhaust back into my GTO. This is applicable to all of the bolt-in Magnaflow exhaust systems for any classic car. And even though this is a reinstall for me, I'm going to go through what I had to go through when I first installed it. I'm going to make some tweaks for some improvement. And hopefully, if you guys are considering putting a Magnaflow system in, you'll know what it takes to do it yourself. That's why I'm here. I do everything at home in my home garage. So let's get into it. Tools. You can do everything with wrenches, a hacksaw, and a welder, or access to a welder. You will need to weld your brackets, your hanger brackets on the exhaust pipe on the rear. But I am using a drill, impact wrench, and instead of a hacksaw, I have a bandsaw. Okay, so speaking of comments, if any of you guys watching had success with your system or some tips and tricks that I don't cover or you think I did wrong, don't be shy. Leave a comment, because the whole process here is for people to learn, mostly from my mistakes. But if you guys had made mistakes and learned from it, post what you did. What car do you have? What motor? What system did you get? To help out everyone. Okay, so let's get started on what the kit comes with and some modifications that I made. Hey guys, before I go through the whole set, a few things you need to keep in mind today. One, my car is super low. Ground clearance is huge to me. It may not be important to you, which is fine. Two, I did some modifications that not everyone's going to do. Okay, that's a takeaway. Three, we're going to work from front to rear. That's how you put exhaust in, front to rear. So we're going to, after I show you all the components, we're going to start mocking up the system, finger tight, front to rear. And then you start tightening it down from there. So speaking of the front, we're starting at the headers. Now those of you that caught the header episode, I changed the flange mount to a ball mount. So the Magnaflow system comes with this set. It has a flange on it. So when I show you the full set, I changed that. So let me go ahead and walk you through what came with it. Oh, number 4, use your listening skills. It's like I'm talking to my son. Some of the components are already in the car. Okay, so I'm gonna explain what they look like and how to put them in, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. So this is what the kit comes with. Starting with our headers. Yes, the kit comes with flanges. I cut the flanges off and put ball mounts on. For those of you who saw the header install, these pipes change in length. We're going to go over that. It comes with brackets that look like this, and that covers that little seam, and you might get some leakage, so I actually upgraded to these wider brackets from Summit Racing. They work really good. So that comes with an obviously built-in X-pipe. And right here we're attached to our muffler, the other mufflers in the car. So right here is where it gets important. I told you guys to use your listening skills. There is an option to either do a turn down like this, or to go over your axle. Those pipes are in the car already. Then you have different options for your exhaust. You can actually go out the side, like more like a Firebird, or straight back, like the original GTO style. I modified it. I went with these. These are hidden under the bumper. You can't see them from the side. So that's the extent of my modifications. All right, guys, I wanted to talk to you about the that X-pipe situation we have. Okay, so we have the X-pipe. This continues back. And we have these pipes that are adjustable, okay? And there's relief within the X pipe to insert these pipes. Okay, so we have freedom of movement in here. What we're going to do is we're going to measure the header distance. So this edge of the header to this edge of the header will actually give us our center line spacing that we can use to mock up the distance that these need to be apart. The reason is we only have a certain amount of length here in the X pipe. This distance here in the X pipe. So this distance here in the X pipe will control the width between these two. If you have a tiny gap to fill, you have to trim these pipes so you can get more freedom of motion here. So let's go do that. Okay guys, so we want to figure out the center to center distance. If you're comfortable with measuring center to center, that's fine, because obviously my transmission's in the way. We can do that. So you just measure center to center. It's actually 19 inches on the nose. Well, 19 1/8. We can call it 19 1/8. But if you can get side to side, it doesn't matter. As long as you take the same spot and measure to the same spot, that's your center to center. So I'll go ahead and use the bottoms. Okay guys, back to our mock-up. I went ahead and put these pipes all the way seated as far as they can go. And I used a yardstick as my center line through the X pipe and in between the rear exiting pipes. And now we can just do a measurement. Again, we can go side to the other side. And I am it's actually right at 19. Now, that's great and all, but now I'm realizing why I had such a difficult time removing this. It's because I started at the front and I didn't have any play to push these back further in their tube. So what I'm going to do, and what you can do too, let's say your measurement is smaller. Let's say it's like 18 1/2. You have to trim these so you can get more depth into this region of the pipe. So I'm going to go ahead and take probably 3/4 of an inch off of each pipe, and let's see what that gets us. Alright guys, so 3/4 of an inch is actually almost the width of this tape. So I'm just going to use the tape as my guide. It's not rocket science here because we're not TIG welding, but this is close enough, so I'm going to use this as my guide for my saw. Alright guys, so I took 3/4 of an inch off this side. I took 1/4 inch off that side because it's not an optical illusion. Check out where the bends are. I have no idea why, what I was thinking. So anyway, the distance from here to the top of the pipe is identical on this side. That's why we're symmetric this way. So this actually doesn't matter. But anyway, so just removing that amount of material, our center to center is 17 3/4. So you can kind of get the gist. If your headers are this close, you need to trim. If they're out here, you probably don't need to trim. Now the beauty of this is that if we're at 19 and we have to take this section of the exhaust out, it's much easier to push this in, and then you can drop it off of the ball mount. So that's why I took some more off, because I struggled with getting these out because I didn't have enough clearance from front to back when the whole exhaust system is in, just to remove this section. So that said, let's go to the back of the car and I'll show you how to prep. Here's a great shot of what I was talking about. So this is what also comes in the kit. There's two pieces here. This one goes down by the gas tank and out the back. This actually hooks over the axle. And what you want to do is jack up the car, the rear end of the car, leave the tires on the ground. That'll give you room to put this assembly in, loosely fit it together. Then carefully lower your car with your wheels. It would be helpful if you actually lower your car and then jack up your car using the axles. So I would just take my floor jack and jack up the middle of the differential and then put my jack stands right in the middle of the axle. That way the car is loaded on the axles on the rear. Then you have to jack up the front and this, use jack stands. Okay. The other thing we need to do is this hanger here. So here's, oh, excuse me. Sorry guys, sorry. Here's the hanger for the exhaust. This is the hole you have to drill. And this is your adjustable length. Look at how far I went. I went all the way to the max because my car is pretty low. But you can change that setting wherever you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the exhaust can on here, and then what you want to do is get some 2x4s or something and actually support the exhaust so it's hanging level, and we'll go from there. Here's what it looks like from the other side. So I have the exhaust hanging on the bracket. I don't have the front end yet. It's just hanging. I have my piping all hooked up. Now granted, mine is bolted to the frame right here, but support it. Support the way you want your exhaust to come out. You don't have to make this anchor point yet. So that's how you want it hanging. And then we're going to install the middle X pipe and the header connection and then re-inspect where we're hanging. Okay guys, so when I was talking about the rear of the car, this is the anchor point I was talking about. The hanger, this comes in your kit. There's a bracket with an insulator mount. So you have to drill a hole in the frame to bolt this on to the frame. Now, you can find an existing hole, but it's much easier to locate a hole. Once you have your position, drill the hole and then you can mount it. Now the welding part I was telling you about is the welding of the bracket to your pipe. I added a gusset, so see right there, for support. Originally I had just welded the top and it eventually broke off. So I had to re-weld it and add that gusset, and it works great. So do that. The other thing to do is if you're using the kick downs, you have to tack weld them on. You can fully weld it if you want, but I just tack welded it just in case I needed to change position. So I just tacked it there and it works great. Be right back. Alright guys, so you start with this X pipe and the two adjustable pipes and put them on your headers, and then I used my jack, but you can use anything to jack it up right here in the middle, because if this is level, that makes sure these two pipes are level. Then as you work your way back, you can put your exhaust cans on and you can twist them to make sure they're level. And as long as everything is finger tight, you can start adjusting things. So if we go back to the back of the car, this is where that welded bracket comes into play. So notice that my bracket is loose. It goes right here. Actually, sorry, the wrong way. It goes right here like this. But if you notice, as you work your way from front to back, and you take this, I'm taking this, I'm pushing it up, watch it pivot. You see it pivot on the pipe? That's exactly why you go from front to rear. So if you leave it laying loose, you can tighten that bracket. You can find your location hole for this bracket. Again, finger tight, or a little bit more firm than that so you can still budge it, like this. Now you go back to the front of the car where the headers are and you start tightening them all the way to the back. And that's how it's done. Then you check, in the meantime, you check your clearances, make sure you're not touching your gas tank, your axle, etc. So you might need to do some trimming, and there you have it. So I have one more thing to show you, and we'll wrap it up. Guys, on the driver's side, don't forget your bracket, like I did. So this is the bracket that goes on these. I like them because they're super low profile. Again, ground clearance is important. I didn't want a flange. I didn't want V-bend collector brackets. So I wanted something low profile. These work great. But I've had a new idea, and that is to put an oxygen sensor in, or at least a bung, so I can do fuel injection at some other point. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out, put the bung in. I'll film that process in a different video, but we're pretty much good to go. Hey guys, so that's how you put your exhaust in. So I apologize I didn't show you all the torquing down, which are in your specs, of how hard to torque them down. I just use my impact driver. It tightens them down really good, especially with those extra brackets. You notice the ball joints I'm using. I had to weld those on. So it's a very simple procedure. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of planning and a lot of adjusting, but you'll get there, I promise. So subscribe if you haven't, and next time I'm gonna film putting that bung in. Not complicated, just I've never done it before, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, until next time, you guys know the drill. Build them fast, drive them faster. See ya.